And we are back live once again with another Johnnie Torch live broadcast. Number 159 today. Torch News Roundup number 138 being brought to you by The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Comics. Yes, The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Comics. You can find the link in the description below. Still hard at work at the graphic novel remastering, and the process is nearly done. I'm basically now just rereading it for the final time before sending it off. But you'd be surprised. There's a lot of things I catch. I've already done the proofreading, so everything is spelled properly. But, you know, this is basically for color continuity. Seeing if the word balloons are up to snuff and don't need to be altered and stuff. But the work is largely done. And then I do have the task of writing, or I should say drawing, the back cover, which I haven't done yet. I've never done a back cover, but we're not going to put an ad on the back of this one. It's going to look very Ricochet or up to snuff for a change by not using an ad. But I'm looking forward to seeing this one come out. It's going to be magazine size. It is going to be killer. So you're going to want to follow my website for info on when that's going to be available, as it is now our final issue in the When the Night Comes arc. Issue number 6 is now available, and it is still not up on Indie Planet. I did contact Indie Planet to see if I could get an answer why. I really wasn't given an answer why, other than they're just backed up. So I have some copies. If you would like a copy, an autographed copy, I usually provide these for the first month or so until Indie Planet gets it listed. And you can check out the link in the description below for my website for The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Comics, and we'll see if we can get one out to you. For this most recent issue is $4. All right, so here we are high above the fair metropolis below in stately Torch Tower. We did a broadcast on Saturday, which was my ranking video, ranking all the, well, we didn't have a top 10, we had a top 9 shows that I watched in the past year. So if you haven't seen that, be sure and check it out, where we did the CW shows, along with some other shows that I watch, including MacGyver, Cobra Kai, Cloak and Dagger, and see how they ranked and stack up. But I didn't get to a Torch News Roundup. There wasn't a whole lot of news this past week, to be totally honest with you. And even though that ranking video did go on to be almost 2 hours long, I thought it was the easier video to do because, as I said, we were awaiting our blessed event. My nephew, David, who came into the world on June 11th, and we are very proud to have welcomed him home on Sunday, on Father's Day, which was a great blessing and a great comfort to have him finally home with us from the hospital. And he's perfectly healthy, and he's just as cute as can be. And I'm a very proud uncle. So I'm dedicating this broadcast today to little David, my nephew, my first nephew. And it's just such a wonderful feeling. It truly is. But let's get on to business. Also, you can check out the link in the description below for my Twitter page. And on Twitter, you can see a picture of him that is as cute as can be, as I said. But we are going to carry on now with the news. And we have some topics of interest that I'm sure... There again goes the drag racing behind me, high above stately Torch Tower. I don't know if you can hear it. We also have the fan going because it is a very hot June afternoon, well, June evening now, Eastern Standard Time. It's now after 6 o'clock. But so hopefully the sound arrangements are all right. I think as long as I've been doing these shows, I've never heard any, bad sound pickup in the background. So I think I'm just concerned over nothing, but I just want to make that clear. Also, be sure you hit the like button. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. I want to thank some of the new subscribers we got. We got about 3 new subscribers. We were up to 93, and then for some reason, I don't know if it was YouTube dropping a dead account or something, but we're down to 92 again. But again, try to get to 100 by the end of the year. We're doing pretty well. We've got a couple more to go. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please do so. Hit that like button as well and share whenever possible. We do have the chat room up. And I'm going to be answering a question, if you could see the title of this video, that one of our big fans, Hunter Iggy, posted a couple of weeks ago that I haven't gotten to, or a couple of shows ago, probably about a week ago now. And we're going to get to that a little bit later on. But we're going to begin with, let's see, this story here. We have, this is not really big news, but apparently everybody's all excited. Everybody's a dither that allegedly, because I still don't have a quote on this, Robert Downey Jr. threw his support behind Riri Williams being his successor in the MCU. Let's see. According to Twitter, Eve Ewing introduced Robert Downey Jr. during the Gene Siskel Film Center presentation over the weekend, and he reportedly told attendees that he believes Riri Williams should be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Well, ain't that just Jim Dandy? We all knew this is kind of the direction that the MCU was heading in. We're going to be stuck with the scabs now. Forget about just replacing Downey Jr., as I believe they were going to originally. That was originally the plan. I don't know. I don't know if this was originally, if that was originally the plan, or if this is somehow Kevin Feige showing his true colors, or maybe he was, I don't know, shamed into it. Maybe he had a head injury. I don't really know what really gave him this big course change that he's made over this past year or so, where we're going to get all the scabs. We've already got it set up where Sam Wilson is going to be the new Captain America. I'm sure it won't be long before Riri Williams is joining the team. I'm sure Asian Hulk will be a thing eventually. Female Thor. All this stuff is going to happen eventually. It's just pretty sad because they really could have kept the momentum going, and I can see it just fizzling out at this point once all these scabs come in. In fairness, Ironheart, they've made Riri her own character, but from what I understand, nobody really likes the character. Um, Again, having Captain America be a legacy character now, where the mantle is just pushed off on somebody else, I don't like it. Ditto the Hulk, although I'm pretty sure we're going to see at least Thor continue on as Chris Hemsworth for the foreseeable future for Phase 4. I'm pretty sure the ending of Endgame, which, spoiler warning, which I'm sure everybody has seen it by now, but where Thor is joining the Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm pretty sure he's going to be around for a while. Hopefully he'll take the Jenny Craig challenge or something before Guardians 3. But yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think, as I am predicting, this is the beginning of the end for the MCU? Again, and I don't say this joyfully. I don't say this with any enthusiasm to see the MCU go down. It's very sad because it was the standard. It was the poster child for how to do an interconnected universe correctly. They did it the right way all along. And unfortunately now it just seems like we're going to be sidelined with scabs and at least B and C listers for the time being, with like I said, the notable exception being possibly Thor, who's by all accounts still going to be in Phase 4. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you excited for this? Do you think this is something worth the MCU's time to introduce all these characters? I'm sure that we're going to get Miles Morales sooner rather than later, because the original intention, at least I believe, was to have Peter Parker stay around for quite a while and grow up during the various phases. And I don't know, it seems to me now that they're not really going to wait around. They're not going to waste too much time getting all these ducks in a row, so to speak. All right, sticking to the topic here of the MCU, kind of disappointing news on the Ant-Man 3 front. Now, I'm a big fan of Ant-Man and what Paul Rudd has done and these movies. I said, believe it or not, I think Ant-Man 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp, was my favorite superhero movie last year. I liked it more than Infinity War, and what else was out last year? Venom. It was really good. I enjoyed it, but it looks like, at least according to Paul Rudd, that Ant-Man 3 is not a shoo-in. Let's see. According to Yahoo Movies, when asked about a third movie, Paul Rudd expressed his uncertainty on the matter, saying, "I don't know. You need to call the top brass and start a campaign to make it happen." Now, this could be just him being coy, that there's not an official announcement made yet, and he has to wait for there to be an official announcement, or you could take it as he quite literally doesn't know if there'll be an Ant-Man 3. I think that they have a lot to do with Ant-Man and the Wasp going forward. I'm pretty sure that Marvel would like to close out a trilogy with them. If you're going to do two, you kind of don't stop there. The only place where they stopped after one was the Hulk, and that was pretty pretty terrible that they stopped after the Hulk. I mean, there was so much more to do with the Hulk, and we pretty much got cheated of that. But there's still a lot more you could do with Ant-Man and the Wasp, particularly the Wasp, because she was always of course, they were both founding members, Ant-Man and the Wasp, founding members of the Avengers, and you can have them have a big part to play in the Avengers going forward. There's nothing said in stone that there is going to be another Avengers movie, but one would believe that the Avengers weren't going to end just because most of the top dogs have, left their post. Captain America and Iron Man and Black Widow. But, common sense kind of prevails that we should see another Avengers movie. And I think Ant-Man and the Wasp should be strong contenders for leadership roles in that new branch of the Avengers, particularly the Wasp, which, as I said before, she should be, I think, a leader of the Avengers because she had a history of that in the comics. She was the chairwoman of the Avengers a couple of times, I believe. And, we already seen that Hope is a strong character, a strong leader. She was pretty much trained long before Scott. So I would like to see that happen as well. So what do you think? Ant-Man and the Wasp Part 2, or however you would phrase this, Ant-Man 3, I don't know. But is it going to happen? Do you want it to happen? What do you want to see for the characters of Scott and Hope going forward? I seriously hope they're going to do something with them, and hopefully they play a big part in the next phase. All right, taking a look now at another bit of rumor mongering that really it doesn't have a lot of strong confirmation. Is Jason Momoa told fans at Celebrity Fan Fest in San Antonio that if he were to play a character in the MCU, that he would love to play Wolverine. There really isn't anything strong about this other than just like hearsay, but what do you think? Do you think Jason Momoa as Wolverine? I can see it, quite honestly, but he's already doing Aquaman. I don't really think we need him to jump teams and try to find something to do with the MCU just yet. I've also said that I think Wolverine should be played by a more diminutive actor. We've already had the 6 foot tall Wolverine. Let's try to go a little more comic accurate. Of course, Hugh Jackman was fabulous as Logan. A tough act to follow by all means, but I think we could do a more comic accurate Logan and see how that goes out. See how you know, that's the problem with the MCU taking on the X-Men, is that I'm really afraid they're gonna try to make it as different as possible from the Fox films. But quite honestly, you can be different by casting, like I said, a more comic accurate Wolverine, and we won't have to deal with, well, let's make a 22-year-old Logan, actor for the part. And I mean, they could really muss it up if they try, which I'm pretty sure they're gonna try, whether willingly or not. But quite honestly, I don't have a lot of confidence in the X-Men in the MCU. All right, let's take a look at. We have the Dark Phoenix not doing so well at the box office, unfortunately. This disappoints me because I like the movie a lot, although, as I said in my review, which if you haven't seen it, be sure and check it out, it is a flawed film. One might call it a flawed masterpiece because we have another conspiracy going on here. The way we did with the Justice League film under Snyder, where we had a lot of people demanding the Snyder cut. I have to admit, I'm one of the voices demanding for a Kinberg cut for Dark Phoenix, because I feel like they really had a chance, and from some of the excised scenes that we've seen in the trailers, images we've seen, such as this one here, there is a bigger story to tell that we won't really know until, you know, a Kinberg cut comes out, or possibly if we get some extensive deleted scenes in the Blu-ray release. But as the story goes, Disney stepped in, demanded a lot of cuts. Some people are going really far with this conspiracy theory by saying that Feige and Disney's, brain trust wanted Dark Phoenix to fail because they wanted to attempt the storyline some 6, 8, 10 years down the line, and they didn't want this film to be the quintessential Dark Phoenix story, which I don't think they would have had to worry about that, because apparently they were going to do the same storyline anyway, with Charles, putting mental blocks on Jean and Jean resenting it later on. And it was basically a retread of The Last Stand as far as the origin was concerned. But Dark Phoenix was going to be very different, with a lot of scenes cut and excised. We have from Ty Sheridan, the actor who plays Cyclops, Scott Summers, we have his recollection of what the original ending to the film was going to be, the original conception of X-Men Dark Phoenix. And according to him, from an interview with Collider, I believe, he was quoted as saying, originally it was scripted that Charles and Scott go to the UN because, man, I'm totally going to mess this up. They go to the UN because they're going to try to tell the president that, hey, we're under attack by aliens and they've now captured Jean Grey. Or, whatever it is that we're going to tell him. And then Jean comes down in the front of the UN and there is this huge battle between the guards at the UN and Jean Grey, and all the guards turn out to be Skrulls. And then Jean and Scott is fighting Skrulls in the fountain. He gets thrown into the fountain in front of the UN, and then Jean comes down and basically fights all the Skrulls off, and then blasts back off into space. She basically says goodbye to Scott and Charles, and then it's all over, I guess. So again, this is confirmation that the Skrulls were going to be the villains. He doesn't really describe what happens to the characters that we see right here, which is my main interest. Magneto, and apparently Storm and Kurt were going to join Beast and Magneto as antagonists, as characters that were going to go after Jean. So this is kind of interesting about how that is completely not spoken on by Sheridan. And he does confirm, of course, that it was going to be the Skrulls. It said that Olivia Munn, who played Psylocke in Apocalypse, has revealed in the past that Dark Phoenix would be a two-parter While that never got past the scripting stage, characters from X-Men Apocalypse would have appeared, including Psylocke. It's also said that the Shi'ar was set to play a role, with Jessica Chastain indeed expected to play Lilandra. Of course, that never came to pass either. So it's kind of strange. It's kind of odd that, Disney stepped in. They really messed things up. They, I think, were responsible for this film tanking as bad as it did. I can see there was a lot of potential in this film that I'm sad it didn't get to exploit. Unfortunately, you know, the situation being what it was, I don't blame Simon Kinberg, although he has stepped up and apparently said it's on him. It's one of those things. When the team loses the Super Bowl, the coach takes the hit, and he's probably, you know, just doing the noble thing. But I do think that Disney is the ones that sort of got this tanked. And as a lot of people have said, a lot of reports have said that there basically was the fear that it was going to be too much like Captain Marvel. They were afraid that Captain Marvel wasn't going to get you know, the original treatment, the focus on being a cosmic heroine that's taking out the bad guys in space the way Captain Marvel did. It's very sad that the way this turned out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you like to see the Kinberg cut of Dark Phoenix? Are you curious as to how this was originally played out? Or are you satisfied with the way Dark Phoenix turned out the film that we got? I do think that it could very potentially, according to what Sheridan says, could have been more disappointing, though, because if, as I'm suspecting is true, and Beast remained on Magneto's side, and Kurt and Storm also turned against uh, Jean, and it was only Charles and Scott on her side at the end, that could have been a lot more potentially devastating ending to the franchise. I mean, as much as I wasn't crazy about the way this film ended, and as a lot of people have said, spoiler warning, which I don't think I have to worry about that at this point, but I think, it kind of leaves it that you can't go back to Days of Future Past and see that same ending. They've sort of rewritten the ending where now Beast is in charge. Charles is sort of in self-imposed exile, and Jean is now sort of just out there as a cosmic entity. It wasn't the it wasn't the desired ending that Days of Future Past promised. And that's probably down to the fact that that was going to be the first part. And when they found there wasn't going to be a second part, that's another reason why they changed some of the ending where, at least we got sort of a happy ending where Beast is back with the school and Kurt and Aurora. So, it's one of those things where it might not have been for the best to leave the original ending intact. But as I've said before, we got the road cut. It's possible we might get the Kinberg cut. It's possible that they'll do an actual cut. It's possible that they might just release some of the ending as an alternate ending, some of the scenes as alternate scenes. I personally would prefer the Kinberg cut because I would like to see a lot of those incidental moments restored. Like I said, the you're looking for permission line, the I don't know what to do line from Charles. These are things that would flesh out the whole film and not just give us a look at what might have been by giving us just like an alternate ending or something. Although, in fairness, I honestly wasn't a huge fan of the road cut. I still watch the original cut of the film. Um, I love Anna Paquin as Rogue. I thought she did as good a job as she could, given that incarnation of the character. But I don't really think it brought anything to to the film, to the story there. I think the only thing I did like that they did differently was the scene where Beast is like confiding in Logan. He says, "Did I make it in your timeline in the future?" And Logan's like, "No." I think that played a little bit better in the road cut. But apart from that, I don't remember anything really being essential that they removed. It was just a nice little sub story to try to give Charles and Eric something to do and to give Anna Paquin a bit of a presence instead of just a cameo. All right, so again, let me know what you think in the comments below. What did you think of the Dark Phoenix? Do you think there should be the Kinberg cut released, or do you think that we should just better let the film lie as it is? All right, let's see. Sticking with the X-Men theme, this is, as I said, Hunter Iggy has left a question about, let's see, Victoria Alonso made some comments here. I've got this story from Bounding Into Comics, which you should check out. They do a great job. And it's this semi-controversial moment in the Dark Phoenix film where Mystique, as played by Jennifer Lawrence, has this very SJW on the nose moment where she says, the women are always saving the men in these X-Men movies, which I don't really know that that's true. I had to stop and think and try to remember when that happened. I suppose they're talking about Jean destroying Apocalypse and uh, probably when Mystique saved the president from Magneto in Days of Future Past. I couldn't think of too many incidents where, as if she was acting like there was this great precedent. Because, there were other times when Quicksilver saved the day, and, we had Beast being very important in his role in First Class as well. But apparently this sort of girl power moment also has inspired some talk. She also says that we should call it the X women. We should change the name to X women. So piggybacking on that Dark Phoenix moment, which apparently Alonso didn't even see the film when she made these comments, but she said she of course is a producer from Marvel Studios, and she stated that the name is outdated because the team includes a lot of female superheroes. Speaking with Nuke the Fridge's Luis Lecca, she detailed how she believes the name is outdated. I don't know where the future is going. It's funny that people call it the X-Men. There's a lot of female superheroes in that X group, so I think it's outdated. This is the most ridiculous phrase I've ever heard, probably since I've been doing a live show. This is the most asinine, stupid, ludicrous, I can't think of any other adjectives, statements I've ever heard in my life. Now, the team is named the X-Men, and to be honest, this goes back to, and I'm surprised that they haven't. The SJWs had done this basically 30 years ago. I'm surprised it hasn't really reared its ugly head in things like the X-Men or whatever until 30 years later now. But back when Star Trek: The Next Generation came out, we had to have a change to the opening monologue, which is, of course, space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. And for no apparent reason, for no demand by anyone at all, the opening narration had to be changed to seek out new life forms, new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. Because heaven knows, you might be talking about a woman. You can't say where no man has gone before. You might be talking about one of the other 357 genders that there are out there apparently now. And so we can't say where no man has gone before. And this is going back to like the mid 80s. They did this way back then. And so now we can't call the team the X-Men because you know, there's women on the team. There may be another of the 357 genders on the team. We can't call it the X-Men because that is such a it's such a passe thing to say. You know, it's quite out of fashion. It's unfashionable. It's out of date to call a team the X-Men. But going back to the Star Trek: The Next Generation, back at that time, I remember DeForest Kelley, of course, who played Dr. McCoy. You know, he himself was confronted with the question, well, what do you think now it's where no one has gone before? And he said the most clear and concise answer to this question that I will have to just take what he said, which is when you say where no man has gone before, you're talking about mankind. When you're talking about mankind, you're talking about humanity. You're not talking about specific gender. That's why the term mankind, it's mankind. It's all kinds of men. It's all form of humanity. You're talking about men, women, and children, and any of the variety of the 357 genders that allegedly exist. And I'm not getting into that right now, but it's mankind. It's not meant to be gender specific when you say man in that term. In the term of mankind, you're talking about all forms of humanity. So the change to where no one has gone before, it was ridiculous back then. Even in Star Trek 6, with the passing over of the torch from William Shatner to, you know, Patrick Stewart, they even had in Star Trek 6 the end of the film had him say both versions, where no man or no one has gone before, and it was basically a passing of the torch, saying that, you know, from now on this is the way we're going to say it. But it was ludicrous then, and it's ludicrous now. There is no reason to have to change the name of the X-Men. There's no reason that it's even the slightest bit hard to understand. It's it's basically broken down to mankind with the added X gene. That's basically what X-Men literally stands for. It's mankind with the added X gene, which of course in the comics means that you're a mutant. Of course, we all know that most of us anyway that are fans know the story where Stan Lee has said it many times of um, Martin Goodman wouldn't allow him to call the team the mutants because it was a word that people wouldn't understand. People wouldn't know what a mutant was, and so Stan went off and thought, well, the leader is Charles Xavier, Professor X, and the members of the team had extra powers, so why not the X-Men? But again, they're trying to remake the wheel. We can't have X-Men because somehow that's not politically correct. The SJWs know better, and we're going to have to change something that truly one of the creative geniuses of all time came up with just for the sake of political correctness. I don't think it's going to go very far, to be totally honest. I think that might be just them testing the waters to see how people will react. But when you have a franchise like this, I don't know how far you can go in monkeying with it. And so, as the title of the video goes, it's X-Ma'am to you. That's right. From now on, when you're speaking of an ex-woman, it's X-Ma'am. But let me know what you think of this this non-controversy in the comments below. Do you think they're going to change the name of the X-Men to reflect X people, or maybe just go to the original name, which was the mutants, which is what a very generic term that I'm glad Stan actually didn't get to use. Of course, this is also the 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 larger problem is going out all over the place. See, such as the Men in Black. Now, I'm not really a huge Men in Black fan. I seen like the first film, and it was all right. You know, it's not that I'm opposed to the Men in Black films, but we also have Tessa Thompson complaining that it shouldn't be called Men in Black because, at least in this film, she's a member of the team, and it should be women in black, people in black, or whatever. Again, the original concept of Men in Black were it was quite literally men. So I don't really know if that's something, because not being a huge fan of the property, I'm not sure if that's something that was, part and parcel of the concept that it was supposed to just be men in black. But again, we're talking about a term that is basically encapsulating all genders, or I should say both genders. But it's not something that needs to be fixed. Something that, for some reason, these SJWs think everything needs to be fixed, everything needs to be improved upon. And my favorite credo is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is not something that really should be concerning anyone. And it seems like people with too much time on their hands, if you ask me. All right, so let me know what you think in the comments below about the X-Men getting woke. And I'm sure they're going to get woke under the MCU. I'm not looking forward to how the MCU is going to turn out. I've been saying this for quite some time now, but I think we see the signs on the horizon. You have to be blind not to see it. Speaking of the MCU, let us continue on here with, let's see. Apparently, there is some rumblings that Norman Osborn will be brought into the MCU, possibly in the after credit scene of there's Willem Dafoe back to formula. Let's hope not. Let's hope they just keep it the way he was in the original Spider-Man film 2002, but that Spider-Man Far From Home may have Norman Osborn as the post-credit tag. There has been some rumblings for a while that Norman Osborn and the Dark Avengers could be coming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Apparently, Marvel Studios is looking for someone to play a character under the code name The Benefactor. He's described as mysterious and nefarious benefactor, and the studio is looking for a male actor, preferably Caucasian, in their 40s to 60s. They're reportedly required to shoot scenes sometime this year in Atlanta. Let's see. Ant-Man and the Wasp's Sonny Birch was employed by someone called the Benefactor, and there's been speculation ever since that could, in fact, be Norman Osborn. Where could this mysterious character make his debut? The only Marvel Studio projects shooting this year are Black Widow and the Eternals, so it's hard to see where he could fit in. So, yeah, this is interesting. I am of the opinion that, much like the Joker with Batman, the Green Goblin is Spider-Man's main nemesis. He's Spider-Man's arch enemy. I think you have to have all roads lead to the Green Goblin at some point. Same thing with the Joker. I know the Joker's played out in the DCEU right now. I know they made a mess with him. But at some point, we're going to be talking about the Batman in a moment, so I'm not going to belabor that. But at some point, you have to have Batman come across the Joker. And the same thing with Superman and Lex Luthor. There are arch nemesises that the main hero has to come against in, I think, every live-action iteration of the franchise. Surprisingly, they didn't match Batman up with the Joker in this new franchise yet in the DCEU. But, apparently also they're building a Sinister Six showdown at some point. Possibly Spider-Man 3 or whatever they're going to call Spider-Man 3 in the MCU, which would be probably the best time to show the Green Goblin. As far as the Dark Avengers theory goes, I'm not sure. I don't really. I've heard some rumblings about this, that they might take the Avenger. I mean the Abomination, the Leader, some of these villains that they haven't used yet. I think the Mandarin. Some of these characters they haven't used, they might place them in Dark Avengers. I really wouldn't be excited about that as much as seeing them maybe show up in a future film, a future MCU film. But I think, yeah, I definitely want to see Norman Osborn show up. I definitely want to see Harry Osborn show up. And at least according to this, preferably Caucasian. So we might just have a comic accurate Green Goblin slash Norman Osborn. I hope he's going to play the Green Goblin, though. I really don't want to see just Norman Osborn in the MCU. I feel like that's, because in the Amazing Spider-Man, or I guess more accurately, the Amazing Spider-Man 2, they had Norman die before he even became the Green Goblin. We had Harry as the first Goblin. It was terrible. It was awful. So I'm hoping that they can at least get this right. Let's do the Green Goblin from the ground up. Let's have Norman. Let's have Harry, and let's build that storyline up. Again, I really don't like what they're doing with Spider-Man on the MCU front. It's really nothing that I want it to be. So if they can sway me over with a good Mysterio and a good Green Goblin, at least they're getting their villains right. I mean, Michael Keaton was great as the Vulture. My only problem with it is that it felt like they very much took Norman Osborn's role and gave it to the Vulture. You know what I mean? The sort of "I know who you are, Peter," and kind of nudging him under the table, such as the way Vulture did in that car scene. Great scene, but it felt like it was something that belonged to Norman Osborn. So, are you looking forward to Norman Osborn joining the MCU, joining Spider-Man in the MCU as a main heavy? As he should be. He should be the main villain that all these roads lead up to in the Spider-Man uh, trilogy and beyond. I don't know exactly where it's going to end for Spider-Man. There was a lot of talk that maybe it would go back to Sony. I don't think that's going to happen at this point. I think even they are pretty much loath to admit that Spidey's staying in the MCU for now. All right, let's get to this article here. This is a big news story where most of Batman's villains are going to be in the Batman, Matt Reeves' The Batman. Of course, not all the ones here in this image are the ones selected, but allegedly we have the names of the six villains, the six super villains Batman's going to come against in the Batman. According to Geeks Worldwide, let's see. According to Geeks Worldwide, the Riddler will more than likely be Batman's lead villain. Now that sounds pretty cool because I think we needed the Riddler to step up again. It's been a while since he's, the Jim Carrey version in Batman Forever, which was pretty good, but he's finally going to get his chance in a modern context to be as crazy and loony as he should be. Hopefully he'll be as crazy and loony as he should be. I hope they don't just make him some techie guy that's, I mean, we already kind of saw that on Gotham. They did go so far as to give him the suit with the question marks and the bowler derby. So I'm hoping that they'll at least go that far. Let's see. Reeves is said to be looking for a male actor of any ethnicity between the ages of 30 and 40. Again, any ethnicity. That's sort of like, we're going to go through all these characters, and you're going to hear that phrase a lot. Again, let me just get this out of the way now. Wanting your comic book characters to look like they do in the comics and be represented and portrayed by actors of the same ethnicity is not a bad thing. That is not a crime. That is not something to be ashamed of. I know people of all different races, and the majority of them agree that they want to see the actors that are portraying these characters be of the same race as the characters are in the comics. So again, while it works few and far between. I mean, like I've said, there's a couple of instances where it maybe didn't make a big difference. But basically you take something away from the character when you are race changing it, particularly gender changing, but especially race changing it. You really take something away from what the original conception of the character was, because the race is important to the character. I mean, it's not like being white is just a default choice and then we just can change that with anything. That is what the character is. That is the character's race. It should not be changed. And if you think that white is just sort of a default placeholder until a more woke choice shows up, you're a racist. You're really a racist. All right. So again, as I said earlier, the Joker is not one of the six supervillains. The Joker is not, and well, I can see maybe saving him for his own movie somewhere down the line. I do really hope that they're going to set aside a movie finally at some point, maybe at the end of the trilogy, where we do see Batman take on the Joker and hopefully Harley Quinn, because we've never, unbelievably as it is, we've never really seen Batman go up against the Joker and Harley Quinn in recent times. Batman and Joker have not shared the screen since, in live action, since Batman 89. And Batman had this very uh, brief encounter with Harley Quinn. So that's kind of disappointing. Also, Scarecrow, Poison Ivy, and Mr. Freeze are also being benched. So most of the people in this image here are not going to be. As I said, I think Mr. Freeze definitely should be benched in this case. I think he deserves a film of his own. Scarecrow and Poison Ivy probably could be in an ensemble piece, but apparently they didn't choose to do that here. The casting call describes the Riddler as a criminal mastermind in Gotham City who takes delight in incorporating riddles and puzzles into his schemes, leaving them as clues for the authorities to solve. Again, that sounds spot on. That sounds like what the Riddler should be. So hopefully they're gonna, find the right actor to really pull that off. Um, they had a good actor too playing the Riddler on Gotham. So I mean, they could go for that type again. I'm sure there'll be an actor that could do it. Let's see. There's been talk of the Penguin coming to the Batman for quite some time. Uh, he won't be as drastically reinvented as the version in Fox's Gotham. He's described as a Gotham City mobster, short, obese with a long nose. Obese. That's interesting. Are we going to go back to the Danny DeVito version? He uses high-tech umbrellas as weapons. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. I want to see the high-tech umbrellas. I want to see, I don't know if the claps, I'm sorry if the claps, I didn't give a clap warning. I want to see the high-tech umbrellas. The Fox Penguin, the Gotham Penguin, did not use umbrellas as weapons. That was the most disappointing thing to me. I want to see the sophisticated gentleman. I want to see him with the top hat, the monocle. I want to see him use umbrellas as weapons. That's what I'm excited to see. And of course, I do want them to play with that concept of the penguins, that he has pet penguins or something, that he probably has the Iceberg Lounge and has penguins as pets or something. That's cool. Do that, go do the comic version of the Penguin for once. I don't think we've gotten that in live action since Burgess Meredith. Let's see. Reeves is reportedly looking for another male actor of any ethnicity between the ages of 20 and 40. Yeah, that's not bad. It's not really an old Penguin, which is what I thought they were going to be going for. Okay. Another character that has been linked to the movie for a while is Selena Kyle, and it sounds like she's definitely coming to the Batman, described as a Gotham City burglar who wears a tight one-piece outfit and uses a bullwhip for a weapon. Reeves wants an actress of any ethnicity. Again, please, will you just cool it with the any ethnicity? Just make her look like the comics. You know what I mean? Oh. Let's see. Between the ages of 20 and 30. So yeah, they're gonna try to make her sort of a contemporary of Pattinson, because he is what, 28 or something. So yeah, obviously I expect her to be around his age. Let's hope it works. Let's hope it works. We haven't had a real good Catwoman since Michelle Pfeiffer, and even there, like I've said before, she was the perfect package. I mean, she really looked like Catwoman, and the costume was just, fantastic. But they really didn't write her very well. They didn't really make her. That's why I said I think she was a little bit better represented in The Dark Knight Rises as a cat burglar, but still, they haven't been able to write Catwoman well yet in live action. Again, since probably 60s Batman. But I'm really hoping this will be the definitive take on Catwoman, and hopefully we get an actress of the stature of Michelle Pfeiffer. All right, in a surprising move, a very surprising move here. They went for a C-lister in Firefly, making his big screen debut, supposedly as one of the secondary villains. Described as a professional arsonist known as the Firefly, he attempts to burn all the places he lacked the privilege to go to as an orphan child. So supposedly, I guess all the theme parks and and zoos and I don't know, museums maybe that he wasn't privileged to go to, he's going to take it out on. That sounds interesting. Reeves is said to be looking for a male actor of any ethnicity between the ages of 20 and 30. Again, he's going to be a pretty young contemporary, I guess. Let's see. The site notes that Batman will feature the Batman will feature the hero using his detective skills to quote unquote solve a murder mystery involving all of the villains. Now this is where we get apparently this is more speculative because this seems to be a more speculative for the last two. According to the casting call, Reeves will be looking for a male actor between the ages of 30 and 40 to play Gotham City's former district attorney Harvey Dent slash Two-Face. Again, no word on the ethnicity. So this is where I said the same thing as Mr. Freeze. I think Two-Face deserves a film to himself. I don't think you start the film with him being Two-Face. I think you have to see that. So if that is something that happens during the course of this film, I'd probably prefer that. But I love Two-Face. He's one of my probably top 5 villains, and so I'd love to see them do right by him. The only problem is they say he would be between the ages of 30 and 40, and with Bruce being, apparently in his 20s, his late 20s, early 30s, one would imagine that they would be contemporaries. They should be contemporaries. Him and Harvey, they were best friends during all the previous incarnations. So that's a curious thing. The Mad Hatter would be the 6th and final villain. Apparently, if this is to be believed, Mad Hatter. Let's see. Reeves is going a bit older with the Mad Hatter and wants an actor between the ages of 40 and 50. There's no mention of ethnicity, but he is described as a scientist who invents and uses technological mind-controlling devices to influence and manipulate the minds of his victims. So, yeah, that sounds pretty spot on as well. It sounds to me like he's pretty much got, his head on straight with these villains. They sound like they are going to be what the comic incarnations have been in the past. No plans for the Joker to appear here, not yet at least. So, let me know what you think in the comments below. Does this sound like a good roster of villains for the Batman? For Batman's, well, I don't want to say his first adventure, but this is sort of young Batman. This is sort of, it's not year one, but this is sort of where he's kind of runs into some of these villains, I imagine, for the first time, or if not the first time, one of the first times. Yeah, and it sounds good to me. I mean, I don't think you're going to see Firefly and the Mad Hatter being lead villains. Scarecrow barely would earn that status. I think he probably could carry a movie. I think there's a lot you could do there with Scarecrow. But if you get to see some of the more minor villains like that, that's a plus. That's a lot of fun. The Mad Hatter, of course, hopefully they don't make him too creepy, but with the mind control thing, it does sound like they're going classic Mad Hatter and not the sort of, you know, well, let's just move on. But yeah, hopefully in the future we get in the sequel, we maybe can build on the character of Two-Face. We could see Mr. Freeze or maybe Scarecrow and Poison Ivy, and definitely by the third, hopefully we'd see the Joker. So let me know what you think in the comments below for Matt Reeves, the Batman, and all the possible villains we might see. And for our final story, this is another one of our thumbnail stories. A very strange and bizarre. I have no idea what they were thinking with this, but they are bringing back the banana splits. And if you're of a certain age, you'll remember them. I doubt that many are gonna remember them from this generation, but like, they were sort of like they were sort of rerun kings and syndication kings back when I was a kid in the early 80s, as an infant. So I pretty much missed out on the the original airings of the Banana Splits. But of course, you'll remember the famous theme song, Sha na 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 na. It was a Hanna-Barbera production. They involved Sid and Marty Krofft, who created the costumes for these characters. Let me take a look here at my notes. What are the names of these guys? I don't even know the names of these guys, but they're familiar to me because I remember it was sort of like the Monkees. That was the era. I think they started like in the late 60s, the show, when the Monkees were sort of just wrapping up. Uh, and it was just basically them being the connective tissue between like other small vignettes of live action and animated shows. They would sing a song and do some zany jokes or something, and then just carry on with the other cartoon elements and live action elements. Um, I remember there was I'm trying to go by memory here. There was a thing called Danger Island, which had the late Jan Michael Vincent on it when he was a young man, and it was basically about, I don't know, a guy and a couple of teenagers going off and fighting um like voodoo tribes, and I don't know. I think it was sort of an answer to Johnny Quest or something, a live action answer to Johnny Quest. It was more for the teenagers in the audience. I never was that interested in that one. Then they had the like a Shazam character. I'm not sure exactly what that character was, but there was an animated series about that. The one I remember the most, or at least with the most fondness, was the Huckleberry Finn characters. They had like Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, and Becky Thatcher, I believe. Is that what her name was? I don't know, but they would be portrayed by live action actors, and they would run into um like animated backgrounds and animated villains and characters and stuff. Oh, let's see. Splash Page Comics is here. Hello, Mr. White Gloves. Glad to see you again. Mr. White Glove says, I used to watch them all the time on Saturday morning. HR Puffin stuff also. Yes, I remember this show basically in syndication after the fact in the early 80s. They used to show this show a lot. And yeah, I never seen HR Puffin stuff. Sigmund the Sea Monster. Yeah, this was a very popular show at some point. And like I said, I remember some of the shows inside. I think there was also the Three Musketeers did a cartoon in this show. But everybody remembers the song. I think that's what everybody remembers the most. The character names, that's what I kind of got sidetracked. But the character names here, we got Fleagle the Beagle, Drooper the Lion, Snorky the Elephant, and Bingo the Gorilla. Yeah, I didn't know any of their names, but yeah, it was cute kids' fare for back in that day. And so now the proposal is they are going to be the feature attraction in a horror movie. Yes, an R-rated gory horror movie. So where these guys were fun and cute and energetic, now they're going to behead your father, and I don't know. And it's kind of strange. This is what they chose to do with these characters. And it's going to be a direct to video movie, apparently. I don't know. I obviously I don't think this would make a big splash in a major motion picture, but it's going to be available direct to Blu-ray, and then they're going to show it on the Sci-Fi Channel, apparently. A funny, weird concept. Yes, very true. Um, I think probably no. I think there was a revival. I was reading up on this in a article, one of these articles, where they said that they did try to revive the characters or revive the show in 2008, and they did, I guess, a series of skits or something, and I guess it didn't go anywhere, and they didn't know what else to do with this concept but to make it into a horror movie. I don't know. This is a very strange idea. Now, this is kind of like tantamount to taking Big Bird and Cookie Monster and stuff like that, and making them crazed killers. I I don't see the point. I mean, if you're gonna bring this back, bring it back and maybe try to put a modern spin on it, because like I said, this was sort of very 60s. It was a very 60s type of you know, Laughing, the Monkeys. It had that root and that origin. Maybe if you tried to spin it off into something a little more modern, but to make it a horror story, I don't know. I honestly don't know what to think about this. Like I said, I watched it in reruns as a kid, and according to the trailer, which you can find on YouTube, it's going to be gory. It's I guess about a family that takes their young son or something to see them live as a live studio audience, and then I don't know, the father is beheaded, the mother is molested. I don't know exactly why you want to do this with the banana splits. I think the banana splits deserve better, needless to say. And the kids are all held hostage and terrorized. This is what it seems to me, anyway, just from seeing the trailer once. But yeah, let me know what you think in the in the comments below. Do you remember the banana splits like me and Mr. White Gloves do? And would you like to see them as crazed killers, lunatics on the prowl, and a danger to society? I don't know. I really didn't know what to think when I saw this. I think I seen it on uh, Ethan Van Sciver's channel. And I was like, is that for real? And I went and actually watched the trailer. And yeah, apparently this is for real. So let me know what you think in the comments below. And yeah, I'm gonna have to take a mental shower now to to not have this image of these childhood icons of mine as crazed killers. So thank you to Mr. White Gloves for joining us here in the comments. Make sure you leave any comments you have in the comments below. I always read them in the subsequent broadcasts. And, you know, I'll try to do turning my childhood into a horror movie. Yep, you and me both, Mr. White Gloves. But if you have any comments about what you think would make a good Banana Splits movie, I'd be happy to hear it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And like I said, I always read the comments on each subsequent broadcast. Uh, as far as the schedule goes, probably we'll be doing our next video next Saturday. So I always do a live stream on Saturday when permissible, when time permits. But yeah, thanks for joining us. And until next we meet, this is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, check out Splash Page Comics. And until next we meet, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.